this is a tricky place to operate. We can do it here, we can do it anywhere.
The world is looking at us to see how we deal with this problem.
All of us around the table are here because we make a promise and we stick to it. Australia can actually, we could take a lot of our know-how over to these countries. Who wants to go next?
We set ourselves apart because of the service that we provide the whole way through.
That's so awkward.
This is how Australian manufacturers set themselves to the side and in front.
Thanks for coming along to the Electronic Manufacturers Roundtable. Thanks for coming in, and from all parts of Australia, really. Glad you can make the time and talk about what we're doing and why we're Australian made. My name's Hayden from Electronic Australia. Richard, welcome from Tindo.
Thank you.
Scott from Catch Power. Welcome Simon from Power Plus. We've obviously all met, but I suppose a bit of background on me. I started in the industry 25 years ago. So I've been working with a retailer called Going Solar, which became a bit of a factory for people in the industry. So I was there for about 5 years and got to know Electronic, where I'm obviously working now. At the time, selling their blue boxes, the SEs, SAs, really liked the company. And obviously I've only been here now for about 2 months, but it was good to sort of come back to what I knew from way back in 2001 when I joined the industry. And somehow still here. There's a lot of people who have come and gone. I've worked in retail wholesale for 5 years with Going Solar, and ventured out on my own for 4 years doing solar installs and mostly off-grid. And by then the SP Pro had come out, so it was very comfortable using that. After 4 years, moved on, started working for another Australian company, SI Clean Energy. These days known as Megawatt Power, so you might have seen them with a lot of the work they're doing out of Coffs Harbour. After that, from 2014 for 10 years, I worked with Canadian Solar in the solar panel manufacturing. So it'd be good to have a chat about some of the comparisons, I guess, we can make when we get into talking.
Don't want to upset you, though.
No, no, you won't upset me at all. But yeah, I mean, after 10 years of being in solar panels, it's good to actually come back to a different part of the industry again. I suppose with Canadian Solar, I spent probably the first half of my time there was in selling through distribution and the retail commercial sort of space. But then probably would have been about 2016 when the utility business started to really kick off. My focus had to sort of shift more towards there. So I kind of lost a lot of contact with the retailers and installer side of the industry. And it's really nice to come back after that 10 year off and or 11 years even, to sort of get a bit more hands-on in the groundwork of things. So, so it was my last year or so, 18 months of Canadian Solar was based in Cape Town. So I was looking after Africa and Middle East, and a lot of similarities to the Australian market over there. Far more demand for batteries, particularly in South Africa, with a lot of their basically rolling blackouts, anywhere from 2 hours to 12 hours a day of no power at home. So you tend to roll into it. The South Africans had a bit of a just move on and deal with it, and sort of bit of tenacity, I suppose, for them. And the 12-hour days can sometimes be a bit rough, but just really helped the solar and battery industry over there, and they're really starting to grow in that space. So that's pretty much been my career. It's kind of gone in a blink of an eye, but 25 years in the one industry. For a while there, I thought, 3 or 4 years, I'll stick it out and then see what happens after that. But
Still here.
Still here. but yeah, as I said, I joined Selectronic earlier this year, back in June, and it's been a bit of an adjustment. Solar panels are pretty basic things. You make one, it just does its job, and no moving parts, and plenty that can go wrong with them. But coming into the inverter space, particularly, as we mainly operate within the off-grid sector, it's the bulk of our business. You got to know about batteries as well, and mentioned earlier that I hadn't seen a lithium battery in my previous 10 years. Last time I was selling inverters or inverter chargers, it was gel batteries. So even that's taken my a bit of time to get my head around how it actually works, and what is a managed or unmanaged battery. Like, what do you mean? Like, don't you just put them in and let the inverter do the rest? So yeah, that's it's been good, like I said, coming back into this side of things.
25 years. Wow. So you don't look old enough to be in the industry 25 years.
Yeah.
You've aged well.
Thank you.
There's some good genetics happening there.
Actually, I had the big beard going for a little while when I started with the company, and then last week I've had enough. It's starting to warm up now. I have a shave, and I'm like, who is this kid that's joined us?
I did something crazy the other day. I decided to shave my beard off after like 6 years, and it was one of those moments where I'm just like, that's it, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And they went, oh! So this is me growing it back now because I can't cope.
It doesn't look right, does it?
No.
Yeah. It was a big transition coming back from South Africa to Australia. How long ago was that?
So I finished with Canadian Solar in 2024.
Right.
And sorry, 2025. So last
2024,
yeah. So so I actually lost a year there because finished with them in June the last year, and pretty much had been working full time since I was out of high school. So I thought, about time. I took a bit of a break, and
Nice.
Finishing in June, I was like, I wasn't really keen to get back to Melbourne weather for winter. So I thought, well, we've come all this way. Why don't we spend a bit of time traveling around? So the initial thought was, let's just go up to Europe for summer. It's like, what are we saying? We've moved all this way to Africa. Let's see Africa now. So spent a good 6 months traveling around, mostly southern and eastern Africa.
It's an amazing country, isn't it?
Absolutely loved it.
Even.
Well, yeah, continent. Yeah, but
So what was that?
yeah,
Correct continent.
correct my geography.
Yeah. No, it's a big continent.
Very diverse too.
Yeah.
Not just from like people, culture, landscapes, but also the political side of it. The diversity on that continent is just out of control.
Yeah. There's a really good book I read called Africa is Not a Country. And
okay.
yeah,
On the message.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
We're all friends.
yeah.
I'm not after
The
this.
premise of it is that each country has gone through its own, pre and post colonialization, and at different stages of democracy or not. And so it is quite fascinating where you just cross a border and how different one can be to the other. So I've very much enjoyed it and have recommended to everyone to go visit.
If nothing else, working within that market share that you did, which is Africa and Middle East, would absolutely prepare you for working within Australia and all the different rules we have to conform to here, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Australia can actually, we could take a lot of our know-how over to these countries. There's particularly off-grid, with storage. Other countries, even Zambia, they're going through their rolling blackouts as well. So
I've got to say, we're sitting at the right table to talk about that, because this fella, the brains that come from controlling the system, because it's not the batteries or the panels or even the power electronics, it's the controlling mechanism, which is the kicker here. And I think this is where Australia does what Australia does best, which is those shorter runs but super innovative products. So
huge opportunity over there, even if it's our brains having people go over there to the various countries, but certainly our products can get in there. Very much needed throughout the continent. Selectronic, as I said, I knew of Selectronic when I joined the industry in 2001, and really back then there was no grid connected systems going in. So, or it was the very beginning. And so everything that I knew of the industry was off grid, and so everyone knew who Selectronic was. For a company been around since 1964, starting out winding transformers, contract manufacturing for the television and radio industry, to then in the 80s go, well, we can also make inverters for this, remote power systems that are needed, and from there it's really grown strength to strength. There's been a number of companies that have been in the manufacturing space here, but we are the last inverter manufacturer in Australia, which is a bit sad, and brings its own challenges for us as well. There's been a lot of iteration over the years, particularly since the early times in the 80s, and through those 2000s, coming out with the SP Pro was sort of the real major game changer for the company, and it's been our bread and butter product ever since.
I think the only thing I'd say is that I know the word sad's a word, but I think it just probably demonstrates how innovative the company's had to be to still be competitive today.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the same for all of us. There's an element of, well, why is Selectronic still trading from 1964 to now? It's because it hasn't sat still. It's constantly reinvented itself.
Yeah.
Made unique products in the market. So I think that goes for any Australian company. If you're in manufacturing and making something, you can't just be design this one thing. It's like, as soon as you finish that, you're on to the next iteration. How do I stay relevant? Often without the volume too. Like, we're in a small niche market. It's hard to cut that. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. The company's definitely shown resilience to persevere in what is becoming a difficult competitive landscape. But it comes down at the end to reliability of your product, and you have to be reliable.
Live and die by it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we all have our challenges as manufacturers, and it's just how you actually overcome them, and how you react to some of these issues that might pop up from time to time. But we're still seeing inverters that are 30 plus years old coming in for service and still operating. So in sometimes very harsh environments. So if any of you guys have seen our previous roundtable, we might have seen some images or videos of a system lasting through a bushfire. So it's hats off to the guys that designed it way back when.
Nice.
Yeah.
Probably had Tindo solar panels with it too.
Must have been. Wouldn't have passed it. So I'm not sure if that's the one that had Power Plus batteries on the wall, but during the 2017 fires, there was in Northern New South Wales, a system went through a fire, and it had SP Pro and Power Plus, and the upside there is you can put a product on someone's property that allow them to protect their infrastructure. So that system kept the water pumps running the whole time. It allowed sprinklers to be activated, the people to find refuge in a safe place.
Yeah.
This is, how do you put prices on some of these things?
Yeah. Yeah. No plastic casing would have survived that.
No.
So
not even close.
But yeah, I mean, the thing that I really liked about Selectronic all the way along as well, when we talk about batteries, is that the technology is agnostic. It's been able to go from very early wet acid batteries to gel batteries to now lithium batteries, managed, unmanaged. It can cope with all of these iterations as the industry grows and develops and changes. Even beyond, once we go beyond lithium ion, it's what's next. We're just able to continue to roll and develop with the SP Pro. Who wants to go next? We don't have to follow this. Anyone do it? Maybe. Rich?
There you go. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Maybe you can fill us in. You're relatively new to the industry.
I am new to the industry. Yeah. I feel like a bit of an imposter here in some respects, because I know you guys have been in it for a long time.
Well, how long have you been in the industry?
3 years. When I joined Tindo.
I've got to say, 3 years in the renewable industry is probably, it's like dog years, right?
Yeah.
Like 3 years in renewable equals 15 to 20 years in any other industry.
Yeah, no, it's good. Well, I would agree in terms of the rate of change that happens in this industry is incredible, the speed. and by reference, before now, I used to be in the water sector, which is very regulated, very slow moving, because you're dealing with people's health and safety and clean drinking water and sanitary services. So it's not an industry that's driven by, I've got to get a new product out, because you're dealing with, a very stable and very important, service really. So going from that industry to this industry where it changes within 6 months, and words can make a big difference. Just the announcement of a program can completely change the market overnight. It's incredible. So I don't know if there's any other market like it, to be honest with you. But anyway, so it's quite fascinating.
It's what keeps you in as well. Sometimes when you want to get out, it's just
that's right.
just these ups and
I'll
downs.
miss the
I'm
life.
done. But then something happens and I'm back in again.
Yeah.
I reckon we're all a little bit addicted to the adrenaline, the solar coaster. Yeah, we all bitch about it. Like, I just want to get there. I'm a bit shaky without it. I've been here, you change industries. I've been here for 6 months. Nothing's happened. I'm going back.
Yeah, what groundbreaking thing.
This, cheaper home battery program is probably the first rebate you've gone through. And
It is, yeah.
yes.
There's going through, then there's the precursor to it as well.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the second one, I've got to say that in South Australia we had a commercial scheme where businesses of a certain size could get up to 50% of their installations paid for.
Yeah.
And the way the government did in South Australia was really good. They just sort of announced it on Friday, starting on the Monday. So there was no,
What good is that?
there was no like, okay, well, I'm not going to buy anything till that comes in.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I'm very appreciative of the federal government's investment in home batteries, but the lead time from when it was announced to when it came in, that was an experience on the solar coaster that I hadn't been through before.
Yeah.
Where the market just went off overnight. I think we
Cash
went
flow
down.
isn't important, Richard.
Yeah, you don't need to pay wages or anything, but I think it went down to about 50%. The official
It was a
big
huge hit.
and so I know just recently, hearing, I think 20 pretty large businesses in Sydney have gone out, and they were good businesses, pretty quietly, but that's not healthy.
No.
Either way, and then now we're into, we're selling fantastically well, but can I get a battery? I don't know.
Yeah.
How long are you going to have to wait? So the cash flow it's going to take a while to sort out for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a good example so it's the first big one. And it's an experience, that's for sure.
You wait to the end of it. It gets even more fun.
Yeah,
When there's this massive ramp up towards the end.
Like coming off
there's
a
that
sugar hit.
cliff.
It's like giving your kids red frogs just before they go to bed.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Solar is such an emotive issue. It's always going to be tied to a government, like an election promise.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how else they're going
I'm
to.
sure universally.
No, in Australia.
Some governments make big promises off solar, and some pretend that it's not something to talk about.
I think, it's a really good point. And I to some degree, it's taken it to kickstart things and to really start moving. South Australia, where Tindo's based, is the biggest uptaker of solar and now batteries probably in homes. So I think those things have been well intended to just do a shift or push a change. I think we're chatting in the taxi on the way here. You're getting 60-cent feed-in tariff at one point. Gone are the days, right? I've never got 60 cents. I think I'm on about 4 cents at the moment, something, or maybe even 2. But so those things that are trying to push a big change, I guess they're necessary, but it is really tough from a business point of view to be able to ride those waves. Really good and then really hard, So I think there's similar things like you could look at the Pink Bat scheme. You could look at the Building the Nation scheme, where the impact is a lot of small companies become large overnight, and then it's really good for the growth. And as things start to die off, then you've got all these larger companies now trying to hold on to being big, and prices plummet, and then all of a sudden no one's making any money. And the people that often the companies that have grown like that don't necessarily know where they are. They know they're selling a lot. They don't know whether they're necessarily making a lot, and they're just looking at their bank account, So, and you find out it's often cash follows your profit situation, and you can, if you're not very experienced in business, it can be a hard landing.
I think there'll be some occasional mix out of this one. Yeah. There's no doubt. Always is.
Yeah.
But I reckon this one more so than others because the dollars are so big.
Yeah.
There's so much how much do you tie up?
Yeah.
When you were talking about it there was people or wholesalers who were making room in their warehouses. They were selling panels cheap, clearing out solar panels so they could hold more batteries.
Yeah.
So all in preparation. People were remortgaging their house
Mm.
to buy more stock.
Yeah.
So it's there'll be this will be an interesting business management exercise for for every company.
Yeah.
Some of them will come through and some of them won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably a little bit off topic, but I want to write an article, LinkedIn article, or whatever it might be, on the bullwhip effect, where one person goes to 3 wholesalers. I need 10 kilowatt hours of batteries. I need 10 kilowatt hours. I need 10 kilowatt hours. All of a sudden, they all think the market's grown, but it's really, I'm only going to take this, not the 30. And next thing you know, there's going to be an oversupply of product. That's when the pricing will completely drop again, back up again. And
It's like sounds like the stock market to me.
yeah,
Trading.
yeah.
That's right.
So there will be, there's this perceived market side at the distributor level, particularly, who think, oh, well, there's all these systems going in, but really it's going to tail off and not everyone's going to be able to supply that 10, that 10, that 10. So
it's going to be interesting. So it has been like 21 years then.
Yeah. So you're an engineer by trade.
I am an engineer by trade.
So how did you? So going from an
I'm such an
engineer,
imposter. I've got to say, I'm a civil engineer. Do you know, a civil engineer builds roads and bridges. And my career started when I left university. I've always been interested in the environment, and my very first job was for an environmental engineering company as a consultant. And so, what was I doing being a consultant straight out of uni? I thought that was a crazy idea. But we did I was living in Sydney, so I grew up in Sydney until I moved to Adelaide at about 40 or my late 30s. And my very first job was contaminated site assessments and remediation. So I had a lot to do with the Olympic site before that was constructed and cleaning up terrible industrial wastes. And now Sydney is almost a completely different city because all the waterways were surrounded by industrial estates because it was easy to get materials in and out. And so all our waterways are really highly polluted. Anyway, so that was a great starting point. And then went into the water sector after that. I was actually with a company called Tees Environmental, which is part of the John Holland Group eventually, which is now part of another, loose track of them now. But they wanted to get into the water sector. And so I was a young guy and said, I'm up for it. And it was like more of an asset management question. And the company that they bought specialised in rehabilitating sewage systems. So there's lots of money in sewer. I could say that another way, couldn't I?
Yeah.
But so I've been drawn to, I guess, technical and engineering type businesses. So that was an engineering business that had developed and designed a system to renew a sewer main without having to dig it up. It was a revolution. So it cost you, rather than spending probably $250 a metre to do that, it was like $30 a metre. It was cool. Did that for a number of years, and it got me into the water sector, and I ended up doing some pretty big jobs there. I've had 2 semi-government jobs in my time. I did the maintenance and ran the system for Sydney Water for a period of time. I was still quite young, and then the second time I did that for a company called Queensland Urban Utilities, and I had all the operations director type things. So I had 5 businesses, all the maintenance, all the construction. It was a lot of fun. 600 employees and lots of customer interfacing and stuff like that. So a big water background, but through all that, I'd moved from Sydney to Adelaide as a director of a water company, and then life took me to Queensland, and my kids were still in Adelaide, and I figured I needed to get back to Adelaide no matter what, because I was just getting older, and they don't really want to see you that much on the weekend if you're not around. And I ended up at that point leaving the water sector and going to manufacturing for a period of time, with a company called Sealy International. Actually make air conditioning systems. Victoria's the biggest market, as a matter of fact, for heating and cooling, and did that for about a year and a half, which was really interesting. And through a course of events, ended up at Tindo with Glenn Morelli, so which was my first entrance into the solar market. And it's been a really fantastic ride. Glenn's an amazing entrepreneur, which is, I guess, one of the reasons he's still doing well in the industry. And it's not just about product, it's about how do you take things to market. So it's been great working alongside him because he's got a lot of skills I don't have, and I've got a lot of skills he doesn't have. So it's worked really well. Yeah. But Tindo's doing all right. We'll just, do you want me to chat a bit about Tindo? Tell you a bit about the Tindo story?
Please do.
What don't you know? How about you guys could tell me? Look, it's a unique story, isn't it? Really, I think. Interestingly, Adrian Ferretto is still involved in the company. He's the guy who started it, and he started the company because he had a wholesaling business, and he was selling retail systems. And it was at a time when I think solar panels weren't as reliable as they are maybe now. Even now, there's still some issues with solar systems.
Maybe shortages as well. There was
maybe
been shortages.
Over the years, yeah.
So they set out to design a panel specifically made for Australian conditions. So he talked about bushfires as an example. I think Australia does have some unique weather conditions, and across we were talking about Africa before, which has lots of small countries within in a continent. Australia's probably not that different size to Africa. It wouldn't be quite as large, but we treat it like one space. Yeah. Or when it's not, I mean, the conditions are significantly different across the country. So if you're going to service all of Australia, you've got to be able to handle cyclones up in the northern part of Australia and cold weather down in the in the highlands, or and extremely high temperatures in the desert in South Australia, where it sort of peaks at 45 degrees a few times a year. It's not so that breadth is the vision they had to build a panel that could do that, last a long time, but also perform at the highest level. And they've done that really well. So the company's into we've just released our 10th generation solar panel, actually, a 440 watt panel, as well as a 475 black, which is not the first time we've made a black panel, actually. We used to make black panels. We transitioned into a white panel because it was a high power, better return. But the market, the cell technology's improved, our design's improved, so we can now make a black model and not sacrifice the power loss. So, that's just about to hit the market, actually. So since I've been there in the last 3 years, our release of new product has had to accelerate because the market's moving so quickly. And that provides with it its own challenges. But amongst all that, Tindo's committed to its quality and performance promise, and just as recently as November last year still, so I think it's still relevant. We won the Choice Magazine award for the best panel on the market still. So that's the third time we've won that. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like a secret shopper model. Are you aware of everyone knows Choice Magazine, but they actually did a independently tested. So they used the ANU PV lab to do the testing on the panels, and they did a secret shopper. They selected, I think, a total of 16 or more products they got from distributors. All the big brands you can imagine, and we came out on top, which is interesting. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I could give you some more information on that too, but I don't like throwing mud at anyone. But the reality is, one thing I would say, and I think this is an interesting point to think about, is that I think we and all of us around the table are here because we make this all we're going to do. We make a promise and we stick to it, and we know we're going to be held accountable by our customers. The reason we won the best panel is that it was a 410 watt panel. We're now making 440, so that's literally only last year we were selling 410s, and we're at 440 and 475s. But it flashed it higher than its power rating, and that's one of our key drivers. We say we'll always a positive tolerance. So anything under its target rating, we won't sell it or put it into a different grade. It's called T grade, actually. We sell it to friends and family, but it's still a great panel, but just doesn't quite meet our standard. The good thing is we don't actually make too many T grades, so we don't have to worry about how far that goes. But one of the key drivers about why you wouldn't select a panel is whether or not it actually delivered on its power output that it has on a spec sheet. All of them except for two products, or no, actually except for Tindo, every single solar panel was under its power rating. Yeah. Now, I think if you were to compare that to let's say, buying a packet of chips or a chocolate, a Cadbury's chocolate bar, if it came out at 240 grams and it was advertised at 250, they'd be answerable to that. So that's concerning for me, because I think one of the issues that we face, not just manufacturers but just the industry, is that we take on so much new technology so quickly that you wonder what we are taking on and how well it will last. Will it last 30 years? Like, will it be pointing at a Cellectronic inverter, or you'd be pointing at a Tindo solar panel in 30 years' time saying, yeah, that's still 30 years, still going. That's what we intend. That's what we say we do. I'm not so sure you get the same level of a commitment to promises, I should say, that from things that come in from outside the country. That's not saying everyone does that or it's on purpose, but I just wonder that's one of the things I think we should, one of the things I think the country could do better at sort of managing a bit. Yeah.
Well, we do have a federal government department, weights and measures. There are, you go to the Bowser and you fill up your car with fuel. There is a legal requirement to have a calibrated fuel Bowser. Where is that happening for our products, right? Where do you get that data sheet and then provide that element of, does it achieve the data sheet or does it exceed the data sheet? And the minimum should be achieving what the label and the data sheet says.
With when I was with Canadian Solar, on the bigger projects, the EPC or the developer would have, Clean Energy Associates or whichever engineering firm in the factory, watching every panel come out, watching the flash tests, making sure it's built to what they're after. Now that can happen on a bigger project because they can afford to pay someone to do that. But at the residential, commercial end, unknown, cheaper products, that whatever's they might pass the flash test with the to get the certification, but after that, who's doing the inspections and who's actually making sure the quality is there? So
it's hard to measure, which I guess you've got a whole business model around trying to figure out how those things are going. But I think the starting point should be, at least it does what it says on the box. That's just a starting point. And I think we all have to accept that when you're trying to push new technologies, there's going to be a certain element of uncertainty around how things are going to go in the long run. That's part of development. And,
that's where manufacturers are honest.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think that sets Australian manufacturing aside and in front of offshore manufacturing because of our Australian consumer law preferencing the consumer. So we already have this in the basis of all of our thoughts. How do we make a product that will last? Whereas you bring it in from offshore, the risk is low.
And that brings up that price versus reliability argument. It's what do you want? Quite often you can't have both. And I think we were talking about it earlier. If you want to manufacture here, you have to do it well, and you have to make it reliable because it is a small niche market.
So it's interesting. It's all that to say, Tindo's still doing reasonably well. Yeah, I'd like it to do better. Wouldn't we all like our business to be going better? And in the I guess another part of Tindo, which some people think is some people sort of pick on a little bit, is that we actually sell retail as well, only in South Australia. We really only do that in Adelaide now. We don't even do it in the regional areas. So we've got our products available if you want it in South Australia. It hasn't been up until now, but because we actually install as well, we really know what our customers are thinking and doing and trying to figure through. So you've got an intimate relationship with battery providers, with inverter manufacturers, and I think that's probably another reason why Tindo's still doing well, because we are very close to the application, not just making something and then punching it off somewhere. It's we have a really high understanding of what the customer's trying to achieve. So it's good. I think the future's looking pretty good with Tindo. We've the federal government solar sunshot program's that's been rolling out. We're lucky enough to pick up some support from the federal government to do that. And that's all about helping us develop our production to the next level, and hopefully get to a point where we're making not just 1% of the. I think we represent maybe about 1% of Australia's solar panel consumption, and if we are able to get up to within 5%, that's a sizable manufacturing interest. So yeah. which is not trying to shoot the lights out. I think that's a reasonable part of the portion of the market, but yeah, that's where we're at.
I know we've met before. My name's Simon. I work for Power Plus, so another Australian manufacturer, of course. We haven't been around as long as some. We're about 8 years old, maybe a little bit older. And I feel also slightly imposter, less so now, thank you, Richard. But I think I've been in the industry somewhere between 10 and 12 years. I come from a different background to both of you. My family is in forestry in northern New South Wales, and I love mathematics, so I studied environmental science at local university, and then travelled throughout the Pacific and West Africa with that work. And at about age 30, I wanted to come home. So around that time, there was a big shift in environmental and in forestry specifically in Australia. So I had to pivot. And I started looking around to find other jobs. And after a while, I somehow fell into a battery company. Wasn't intentional, had no interest in it. And I quickly learnt that energy storage underpins everything. The lights don't stay on unless you have batteries. Where are batteries in the switch gear for the air breaker switches which control the power stations, or the UPSs which ensure that the PLCs remain active in a power fluctuation. So really fundamental energy storage. It's key to everything. In our watches, our phones, our cars, there's batteries everywhere. And it's something that is not sexy and it's not interesting for almost everyone, but as it underpins every part of modern life. So I fell into this role, and then I very quickly jumped into industrial and stationary storage. So think solar batteries or batteries that go into machines. And I was targeted within that organisation to lead up the national sales team from a technical point of view, and I worked with engineers who did the real clever stuff. I'm not professing to be smart, but I can remember things well. And then after a little while, we were taken over by another company who wanted some of the assets. And they quickly told myself and the team that I was working within that there's no future in energy storage, that we're having a pay freeze. And we all just instantly went from a really high morale to a really low morale. I know that's what happens, right, when you're told that why go to work. So I got a job working for a wholesaler. It was super stressful. High turnover, really low margin, push, and I needed that. I needed to be able to see what our customers experienced, to understand the supply chain and the pressures that happen within it. And around the same time, Power Plus actually reached out to me and said, you should come work for us. And having a mortgage and starting to work for a startup is a kind of a nervous thing. So I've kind of pushed back. And then after a few years, the offer they made was just, you're right, I'm wrong, I'll come and work for you. So I joined Power Plus in a sales role. I identified that I didn't want to be in a sales role. I really struggle with sales. I can't remember people's names. So everyone in the industry will probably know me from standing up at a Solar Cutters or a Smart Energy or a Clean Energy conference and talking on stage. So I tend to know everyone, but I don't remember people's names, and I'm so bad at this. But I accept and embrace my differences. That's good.
Hayden, Rich, or Scott.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's all right.
And so the sales role, when you're in a relatively new and evolving company, and Power Plus is still new and evolving, 8 years in this industry feels like a lifetime, but it's not really. You have the opportunity to make your own path. So the path that I've made for myself at Power Plus actually sits on the customer-facing part of our business with technical support, warranties, documentation, integration with power electronics, because batteries are not the center of a system. We're a peripheral component. In fact, without the brain of the system, which is the battery inverter, in this case, of course, electronic, we don't do anything. We just sit there. Sexy, expensive paperwork. A lot of people would argue not so sexy, but that's all right. And the other part of that has been in a strategic and project part that I've driven for myself around working, having customers at every level. So in Australia, Power Plus Energy's got direct customers through federal, state and local governments at all levels and all parts. We have now exported, I think, over 15 countries. And we've been playing almost the whole time within critical infrastructure, and not just standalone solar, but critical infrastructure within utilities, water utilities, power utilities, government departments. And it's not just our product is Australian made. It's because we have a focus on ensuring that no matter what, the end user has the right experience. Because how do we set ourselves apart from offshore manufacturers? We are not a cheap battery compared to some. We set ourselves apart because of the service that we provide the whole way through, whether it be pre, during or post sales. This is how Australian manufacturers set themselves to the side and in front. And I jokingly say to people, my environmental science background, I've got cast aspersions over engineers, allows me to count to 10 without looking at my fingers, but also talk to people. Because having an engineer work in the executive management role that you do is not always normal, because that jump from dealing with numbers to humans is a really tricky one. And unfortunately, all of our roles have us interacting with humans every bit as interacting with our products. But we're all lucky in that our products are fundamentally good, so we don't have to stress so much on that. We just deal with the human element. So, I suppose, like I said, my background, like yours, is different. But I think that's what makes our companies strong, is having people within them that have a diverse background, that bring all those extra touch points in.
Yeah, it's funny when you're younger, you think, oh, this is where my career is going to go. And it's like life, here, there. I mean, but you would never have thought you'd be a solar panel manufacturer.
No. Well, someone said my son is just finishing university as an engineer as well. So, Dad, I like to have your career. I said, you don't want my career. It's been all over the place. There's been nothing predictable about it. But I think that's part of, those two things are linked. And while I'm an engineer, I don't know if I'm as strong with numbers as I am with people. So I quickly figured out when I was studying that, I like dealing with people, and I happen to have a good technical ability to understand something. So I've never designed a solar system to put on a house, but I understand it. I still can't design one, but I can sort of look after people that have to do that. And then there's always a customer. So I think that's an important part of all business if you're going to be successful, isn't it? Understanding people. Yeah.
And then having that mindset that no matter what, everyone has to have a smile on their face. You can't have a business where you get to the end of the driveway and you don't care anymore. We see that with our customers, unfortunately, all the time. But as manufacturers, we can't do that. We have to, no matter what, have that focus that the consumer, the installer, and our channel partners all have to have faith that we will be there to support them.
Yeah, definitely.
I was also reading your lifesaver.
Yeah.
For someone who can't swim, how'd you get into that?
So I grew up in northern New South Wales near Byron Bay. Mum and dad hippies, so why not? That's a centre of hippie kind of town. In fact,
And in forestry.
oh yeah, no, real outliers. Okay, so there's two types. We'll cut that bit anyway. Don't want to polarize too much for our customer base. So forestry's for our family is not the conventional sawmill kind of forestry. From time to time, I still help my family business. We do Australian hardwood shingles my dad and mum do. They're in their 70s now, so I'm the probably last person in Australia who can hand split Australian hardwood shingles for heritage and restoration jobs. Yeah, so
that's fascinating.
We were talking about slave labour before. Working in family business, absolutely slave labour. You can't hand on heart say otherwise. But you do what you do for family. So it's not forestry in that sense of go and cut everything down, but very niche manufacturing in that regards. So I kind of come from this background. But growing up in northern New South Wales, where it's kind of warm all year round, going to the beach is a way of life. So mum and dad really worried that myself and my brothers might have problems. We joined Nippers. I was about 6, so long ago now. And from nippers, I just stayed in surf life saving my whole life. So I've been patrolling as a surf life saver since about 12 or 13. I now hold internal national medals recognising 25 years service through surf. And then externally, I've been awarded the National Medal through the Governor-General for commitment to emergency services in Australia. And after the 22 floods, I joined the New South Wales State Emergency Service, the skills transference. So I can swim really good, I can boat really good. And within both, because I've been doing it so long, it gets a bit kind of not as interesting. So these days, my roles are more around management or leadership more accurately, and then also training. So I work as a volunteer, everything's volunteer. And so training the next generations and providing leadership to the next generation. Because actually lately I've been talking at the Solar Cutters Roadshow as a sponsor, talking about leadership in workplace. I believe this is something that our industry needs to do better. How do we attract new people to not just ourselves, to our organisations, but broader? How do we attract people into the industry and how do we keep them? And we do that by being really good leaders. We make it almost an aspirational thing. I really want to go and join. And your son is looking at your career going, oh, this has been amazing, Dad. I want to do that. And no matter what we feel about ourselves, it's our journeys have been amazing. Not saying they weren't really hard, weirdly disjointed, but
yeah. I think you're right though about any industry, but particularly our industry. I think because it is so new, it is still new. I mean, it's only really been around proper for 20 years.
A blink of an eye.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I was, I've always been interested in the environment, which is why I sort of started in environment engineering. But I'm going to get this wrong, but in Chippendale, Sydney, there's a house that was developed off-grid. Remember that?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, I think.
Terrace.
That's it. Terrace house.
Terrace house.
Yeah, and that was like a really cutting edge, own wastewater treatment on site. But I think they had batteries. I think they might have had batteries. I can't remember. Anyway, my grandfather was an inventor and had little solar cells in his house in the mid-70s. So he was a really early adopter of this stuff. Anyway, I decided that I wanted to build a house. I had a block of land around near Pennant Hills, and I was going to build a house with battery and solar. And I don't know who I spoke to. It might have been you, mate, but they talked me out of it. I said, no, it's a ridiculous thing to do. You can't put batteries in it. It's not going to work. It's way too early, but that wasn't that long ago that people were saying it's a ridiculous idea to put batteries, because I was thinking, how do I get off grid in the middle of Sydney? That would be cool, right? And now it's like, absolutely. So it's a really new industry. So it means it's a great opportunity for people to come in and make a difference. And I think bringing in skills from other industries is really relevant. It's not like it's a rocket. It's not. I shouldn't say it's not rocket science. It is quite difficult, but which is the attraction of it, I think. But in terms of developing good process, good business, good customer service, good end outcomes, the elements of those things are similar to other businesses, other industries. So the more good leadership we can get into the industry, the better it'll do. Yeah.
It's funny. When you say it, takes me back to probably around 2002, 2003, and I remember talking to someone about these grid-connected solar systems, and most people at the time were probably putting in maybe 700 watts, maybe a kilowatt at most.
Yeah.
And that was a big investment. You're probably spending over $10,000 to do it. And,
it's huge, right?
I remember talking to someone who was in the industry because I don't understand why people would do this. It's such a small drop in the ocean. Look how much, how much energy we're getting from coal and other resources. And it's like, well, we add that 1 kilowatt to the next kilowatt, and then you add those two to the next one, and bit by bit it's going to grow. And then obviously, sure enough, and that's what's going to happen with batteries as well. Everyone's now going, well, who's going to put in a PV only inverter now? They're all going to be inverter chargers or hybrid inverters to go with the batteries that may or may not go in at that time, but very likely will now. So again, people looking at, why would you spend so much money on batteries? Well, okay, it's a little bit, but bit by bit it adds up. So yeah. So Simon, tell us more about the Power Plus products.
So Power Plus Energy, little over 8 years old now, and we're actually. I was thinking about this, and I was doing some counting when you're talking about what generation panel you're on. I think we're somewhere between 6th and 8th generation of product. People in the industry don't see this, but we have products that don't make the mainstream renewable sector, but we still have products out there, and in our projects work through defence utilities, where there's levels of security risk associated with comms, whatever it might be. So I think we're somewhere at the moment working on maybe generation 8, which we'll start seeing come through into the market very soon. And we're basing off the same chemistry at this point, which is LFP. It's a good, stable, known platform, but we're actually, like everyone else here, looking to the future. What does it lie? The quirk of this is the rack mount batteries we see that Power Plus manufacture are actually more energy dense when you compare them against a lot of stackable systems that are currently getting installed. So we don't think there's ever going to be one battery that is the answer for everything. There's always going to be a spectrum of energy storage products that are going to be required, whether it be still wet cell lead acid that you were talking about before, or gel. But we see the applications being very niche and very specific that you have to hit. And the example was around power stations, where you've got uninterrupted power supplies. You can't use anything other than the type of lead acid chemistry because the characteristics required. It's just how it is. If we move to the other end of the spectrum, where we look at residential, the triggers change. We've got that speed to install, the form factor has to look sexy and lovely and white and shiny and pulsing LED lights. Lead acid will never tick that box. A rack mount battery, it won't either. So we see now products in the Australian marketplace with stackable batteries. We have one as well. Is that good? Is it bad? It's neither. It is just how it is. And I feel that manufacturers have to have that broad outlook to ask that question. What does my market need, want? How are they going to use it? And then make the products for that. I think without the cheaper battery home scheme, or whatever it's called, I hate acronyms, and the word cheaper should never have been in that, personal opinion. We've actually ramped up from this time last year to being a little over double production. So this time last year, I think we're manufacturing per week about 2 megawatt hours of storage, just around the corner from where we're sitting and filming this now, to the moment we're a little over 5 megawatt hours of storage a month that we're manufacturing. And we were discussing earlier on a walk around about efficiencies in manufacturing, and we've been driving that internally. How do we ramp up and become a more efficient machine? Because there comes a point where we go from having purely human touching and doing, and we now need robotics or lifting machines or whatever it might be. And we're probably not far off jumping that next step, but to jump that next step, we then need to have all the efficiencies in place first. So we invite people all the time. If you're in Melbourne, you want to come to Power Plus, please reach out through our sales team. We will give you a factory tour because we want to show you how much we actually do here in Oz. People don't understand the level of manufacturing that our businesses do. They say it's not possible. It is possible. We've been doing it. You've been doing it since the 60s. This is happening every day here. And the best thing is our products have that Australian marketplace in mind, from the snow of the south to the crocodiles of the north and the deserts in the centre. This is a very hard market to hit with, I think at last count, maybe 17 or 18 certification or compliance levels required. This is a tricky place to operate.
Yeah.
We can do it here, we can do it anywhere. But Power Plus, we have solutions. I think the smallest commercial critical infrastructure is running through Tasmania, a 3.3 kilowatt hour battery for a utility down there, and the largest single battery I think we've got running is in the northwest of Australia on a mine site running mesh Wi-Fi. It's a little over 2 megawatt hours of storage. So we, with our rack mount product, go from really small to really big and everything in between. We're limited by our customers' imagination. Yeah, Scott. Now,
Cool. Over to me.
you've got a really tough gig. You've got to
Yeah.
follow us three amazing people.
Well, that's the thing. Like with what you do, very different to we're the big hardware, I guess, of a system, and in comes cut.
Little thing there. Yeah. So, just about. So my name's Scott. I'm managing director of Catch Power, and I've been in the industry since 1999. So it's actually the journey started in Melbourne. I worked for another Australian manufacturer called Global Lightning Technologies, or Crytek, and they were a manufacturer of lightning and surge protection, of all things. And I was the state manager here in Victoria. But my wife was pregnant with our first, and we wanted to go back home and have a family closer to family. So I was applying for jobs, and I applied for a job for a company called M&H Power Systems, and as a salesperson. So my background is sales and marketing, mainly sales, and so I applied for a job back in Sydney as a salesperson, and that company was selling Sonashine batteries, and they're a very good cyclic battery, and so I was selling to guys selling off-grid systems. There was no grid connect back then; it was all off-grid. Yeah. So that was 99, and as the industry grew, that gave me more. So the industry grew, and so M&H Power Systems grew with it, and so we added more things. We got one of the first deliveries of a Suntech panel, of all things. Yeah, it came on. I don't think it was even on a pallet. It was just shipped to us. It was just somehow it made it across, and that made the job really exciting, actually. So lots of great products. Sonashine was a great basis, and so I was there for 17 years, looking after New South Wales and ACT. So great bunch of people, and loved the industry. I was hooked, So, but it was coming to an end, and for various reasons, I had a decent sized system on my house for the time, 60-cent system, 60-cent feed-in tariff, and I was looking at my energy bill, and almost half of it was made up by electric hot water in units. Yeah. And so I was just thinking about, where does my system go once the feed-in tariff ends? Am I gonna, make it work harder for me? And I had a very good customer up in the New England, in Glen Innes there. And I was telling him this story, and he said, "I've got this idea." So he's an engineer, software engineer, I was telling him this story this morning. He sent me a line diagram of his idea, which I didn't understand, but I understood the concept, and I said, "That's a great idea. Let's match hot water to solar. This feed-in tariff's going to go soon, and people are going to be wanting to do more with that energy and have it work for them, So that was the start of it. So we made our first product and sold our first product, making it part of the business, but we also sold our first product in April 2016. So that was our first product, Blue Catch, out there, and now 50,000 devices later, we're still going. Yeah. So so we're coming up to so we count that as our anniversary, is April 2016, and so next year is our 10th anniversary. So every milestone's worth celebrating, and so we're having a bit of an event there, and so with I guess a bit more about the Catch Power story. So we started out with hot water diverters, and that was the lion's share of our product, of our what we were manufacturing, and then originally we wanted to come up with a cheaper way of doing that by switching. It ended up being a very sophisticated bit of kit, which is Catch Control. Originally released as Catch Solar Relay. And but that's been the linchpin of our business growth since then, because as it happens, my business partner is a software engineer. He had to learn a lot of power electronic skills to manufacture the product. Not hardly any software to firmware on the device. But as the industry has developed and there's more requirements in participating in the network, it's come back round to his skill set. And now, you know, he he's the one that designed our CSIP server, you know, for started with flexible exports in South Australia and also dynamic exports in Queensland. And it's all done by this bit of hardware that sits in there, in behind the meter there, connected to the inverter. So, so that's been the future of our business. We I guess in a lot of respects, it dawned on me a little while ago. Just I was telling this story that we are probably similar to Tindo's. We are vertically integrated. For our little thing that we do, everything comes from us. So the firmware on board the unit, the software that drives all the activities in the cloud, and the manufacturing, the engineering, the design, our website, you know, everything with our logo on it is been done by us. And I think that's we're pretty proud of that story. And you know, coming out of little old Glen Innes, it's a success story. We feel is Catch Power, and we feel as though the more challenging it is for installing solar, putting more and more CER or controlling more and more CER, but participating in the network. You know, there's network demands all the time. Our role will that's the role we're playing, is facilitating that interaction between the generation, the storage, the orchestration of the loads, and the network demands. And now potentially, well, not potentially, you know, wholesale markets are an increasing part of the equation. So yeah, so that's a bit about Catch Power.
So recently we've been doing a little bit of work with Catch, and I've been to their factory, and I've observed, how do you get people to work to do this really sophisticated type of not just manufacturing but coding and everything else in really the middle of nowhere? Because we're in Melbourne, you're in Adelaide. It's hard enough getting people to do these types of things with these skill sets here, which I see as being the hold up to our industry, actually, is those people not having the skills. And you got little old Glen Innes, which is not a one-horse town anymore. It's probably 2 or 3 horses, but some really crazy innovation coming out of there. Like, that is hats off to you.
We've been very lucky with who we've hired. We've got a great bunch of staff in Glen Innes specifically, but also elsewhere. We're
except for the Sydney group, like they're a bit.
Yeah. We try and fit in with the Glen Innes vibe, but they're Jason and I talk about this a lot. Is that where we feel part of the success, a big part of the success of our journey, has been the people that we've hired and how they've flourished as individuals. Because often they've come in, because of where we're hiring, they've come in with no skills, you know, very little skills, and we've just given them the license to be as creative and as productive as they can be, and they flourish. You know, Erin is a classic example of that. You know, she was working
She's going to see this.
She's going. I know. You know, it's all marketing. You know, content. If I can make the content about the content developer, is that good? I don't know how that works.
It's also like on that. It allows people, you know, if take your son, young engineer coming through, going to university, you don't have to study here, then go offshore to work in Silicon Valley or you know, wherever it might be. There are actually opportunities in Australia to use the skill set or the direction that you want your career to take. So
particularly in this industry, this is the leading edge of what it looks like to have a whole lot of renewable energy resources in a network. There's nowhere else in the world. The world is looking at us to see how we deal with this problem. You know, they're looking at Adelaide.
We're the pilot plant.
Yes. Honestly, I mean, I often go to Adelaide and I go, and I'm talking to the retailers there. And you poor guys, you poor, you know, because they're always having to face the challenges first. You know, whether it be flexible exports or the backstop, the relevant agent business.
Even prior to that, with, you know, Voltvar or whatever happened as the precursors.
All that.
SAPN's been there at the very beginning.
They've had to, because there's so much renewable energy in that grid. You know, if it goes, if they want to know what's going to happen, if you know, and if an interconnector falls over or you know,
which has happened.
which has happened.
To be fair, when that did happen and the large battery was installed there, that started the normalization of battery systems grid connect as far as we're concerned. Prior to that point, batteries have been around since well before you know we're all here. And you're talking about that house in Sydney. Guaranteed they're going to be locomotive batteries because that's what it was back then. You'd get the old secondhand forklift or loco batteries and chuck them in, and then you have to make your own inverter from kits that you buy through Cellectronic, and then one day someone came and made one for you, and then you know someone decided to make solar charge controllers. You no longer have to make those as science experiments. So this has all been there for ages. But then SA has led the way in normalizing these conversations, and I don't think enough credit is given to whether it be, well, I know why, it's because of South Australia, right? But they make good wine and great panels.
But it's an interesting mix there that Adelaide of all places has had such a take up of renewable energy resources in there, and the impact it's had has not as it's I mean it's forced the development of a lot of things, you know.
I think it also. I was just going to say what's interesting about our industry. It's gone from a cottage industry like that. I mean, actually, Glen Morelli, when I first joined, because this is the largest cottage industry I've been part of.
It totally is.
But it has gone from that to some, you know, without being direct, you know, people tinkering around. What could we do with a battery? To it's just completely disrupted the entire power network and the entire way we think about energy. In addition to, and it was there kind of before people were really starting to get worried about global warming and the effect of fossil fuels. So it was becoming a real enabler to think differently about that. And I even just on the way over, I think the rate of innovation's accelerated, but it's going to get even more crazy. You think about the internet and the impact that has on us. You know, it was a funny little interesting thing that should I get an email address? I guess you'd get an email address when I first started working. Like, you know, seriously, like, you know, we're still sending faxes off on the machine. And now it's like, it's just going like that. And I think the same thing will happen with renewables. I feel sorry for the guys on the other side of it, the regulated side going, okay, the system's not designed for this. What do we do? I do remember not long after I'd started at Tindo and having a utility background, you know, when you've got hundreds of thousands of customers or millions of customers, you know, you've got this obligation to maintain service and all those sorts of things. And I think Sappin pushed a spike through the system which shut off all the inverters, and all of a sudden our service center was getting hundreds of calls going, what's going on? My solar system's not working and it's broken. You know, Tindo said this is reliable. It is. We don't know what's going on. No one talked to us about that, and all of a sudden we became the front end of a regulated business. So we had to go through and work those things out one at a time. And then it was only after that fact we discovered what had happened. And we could say to our customers, look, this is not the system failing, it's actually something to do with the main network. But I think in South Australia, that's we kind of accept that it's, you know, it's pretty ropey from time to time.
Actually, I've got to say, and I don't know if I'm taking myself on a different tangent here, but that actually highlights a real problem we have, and I think you wear the brunt of this as well. I don't think enough people understand that Australia doesn't have a electrical grid per se. We've actually got 17 or 18, maybe more electrical grids, which some of them are interconnected, but they're not actually that interconnected. And the example will be here in Victoria, how many power networks do we have? I think 4, and it's a tiny little place. It's not big in the scheme of things. You go to Queensland or Western Australia, where they're effectively monopolies owned by the state governments, there's still not one network. There are multiple networks. And within a network, you'll have multiple sets of rules. So the tricky bit for us as a manufacturer is, you said before, this time last year, you're making 410 watt panels, you're at 440, 475 now. The legislative framework that we work within is not changing at the same rate. So I think some of the things that we see coming through, whether it be driven through SAPN or others, is a reaction in, unfortunately, not the most well thought out way. And so if there's anything anyone listening out there who's part of policy making, please plan better, because how do you bring innovation to the table if we're not working to easy to understand legislative framework? So this is a challenging environment, and I don't think other countries in the world have this same level of complexities that we do. And I actually think it's kind of, you're to blame on this. Our uptake on solar panels has been so vast in such a short period of time. The amount of solar that's within the national network, irrespective if it's the islanded grids of Western Australia or wherever, is now so much, it's becoming damaging to all downstream equipment, including the generation transmission. And everything we're doing at a manufacturing level at this point and integrating through devices like Catch is trying to mitigate that damage, and trying to extend the service life of transmission, generation, and
So it's
distribution.
it's interesting because so my background really is asset management.
Yeah.
If I really look at it properly in the water sector, and I'm making product in the energy sector. But if you think about what's going on, there's a transition from centralised power generation to power generation on everyone's homes. Decentralised, right?
Yeah.
So, which means a huge amount of complexity from one big plant generation, coal-fired power plants, and then transmission lines, and then just the reverse. So, like a leaf, basically, your interconnectors get bigger and into smaller right down to your home. Now we're having all the power coming back this way.
Yes.
And, quite frankly, the homeowners have been incentivized to take that on because it's an economic benefit to do it. Like, it's smart, you save money. It doesn't drive down the cost of the infrastructure that's got to still be there to ensure the lights stay on when renewable energy doesn't work. But in terms of a government incentivizing doing that, it's pretty clever, because the homeowner becomes responsible for the power, not necessarily a centralized point, or at least they share the responsibility. So I'd be interested to see where it goes over the next decade. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Particularly with Catch Power, you've got, here in Victoria at least, electrification of everything. So all the gas is being, shut off, and no longer able to put gas heating, gas cooking, all those kind of things, which brings you guys into the fore even more, let alone EVs coming in, and that's going to, have things shuffle around again as well. So you guys are in a really good position to be able to, capitalise on all of those sort of changes that are coming through.
But this is why I think the federal battery rebate,
Good, thank you,
Deb, is a good thing, because this is all that generation has created. This is the problems we see in Adelaide on big ways, the big massive duck curve every day. Negative pricing, wholesale pricing every day. That's a problem. And now all these resources are going in to potentially, reduce those peaks at the start of and through the middle of the day. So I think it's while there's been other government initiatives to encourage whatever, this is actually a good embedded resource into our network for the future. I mean, I think this is why they've said it has to be VPP ready, because if it isn't, then sure, we can put all these batteries in, but they'll be charged by 11 o'clock. And the duck curve hasn't started, So we need to incentivize the use of these assets in a smarter way, and that's the VPP part of the puzzle. So I think that I'm a big supporter of this, not just from a point of view of from a homeowner, where you can get this stuff cheaper, and save reduce your bills or whatever, and great for the industry. Everyone's selling lots of systems. I think this is a good infrastructure move. This is a really, and unless you've got lots of resources out there, or I guess somewhere for that solar to go, where somebody wants it, then you're going to put a lid on the amount of renewables that are going to be able to be put into the grid. So I think it's a great move by the government. I mean, we can talk about how it was announced or how it was released. That had some impact in the industry, no doubt about it. But on the whole, I think it'll be a great resource in our network, and to be able to put in. I mean, the rate of renewables we need to put in is exponential, and unless that is matched by somewhere to put it, it's always going to be hitting a ceiling somewhere.
Yeah.
So here it is. All this behind the meter control is about to be realised. And I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you've really done is taken quite a complex issue of how to manage electricity wholesale through to the consumer to the products, and with that user interface and being able to basically tell people, oh, don't worry about this. This is how we can achieve it. So
Yeah, definitely. It adds a large opportunity to be able to use the energy more intelligently, at the right time, in the right conditions.
That's why we keep them on the friendly side, because they make our products look way cooler than what they really are. So it's
I was going to say, when you were saying, oh, it's just a dumbbell, oh, no, it's pretty sophisticated now compared to, I think it's a solar panel's pretty simple, isn't it? But
the reality
be able
is,
to capture it and manage it and do what you want, and doing that in a way, en masse, like, in large VPP networks and stuff like that is, it's really valuable. Yeah.
we play down some of the really clever technology that goes into our products, because consumers don't understand it, installers don't see it. We get all nerdy on this stuff, but the reality is solar panels, they're not old technology, invented back by NASA to power their, space station stuff. That's not that long ago. But the jumps that you've made on the way forward to get to, whether it be 475 watts or more, that's amazing. I decommissioned a system on my house that was 10 years old so I could change the panels. I more than doubled the power generation capacity in the exact same footprint, the same number of panels, by changing from a 10-year-old panel to, at that time, a new panel. That's a huge jump. Within our batteries, the complexity that occurs to make a battery actually operate in a self-managed mode, let alone a managed mode, we have to have all the clevers built in which overcome any external force. So managed battery, it just takes the instructions from the inverter. It says, I'm too hot, I'm too cold. There's some very limited control methodology built in. We have to take all that on board. So it's actually a really challenging product to manufacture, not knowing how it's going to be utilized. But the reality is our products are genuinely, absolutely no use at all unless we're connected to a battery inverter and other power electronics, and then told what to do by the overarching clever device that looks at the entire network as a whole and takes those external triggers to, like you say, use energy more efficiently. This is the key. We've invested in power stations, we've invested in storage. Now the question is, how do we deploy that energy in the most efficient and clever way possible? So the break there we had, all of a sudden, our table has grown visitors.
it has grown visitors.
Yes.
We've decided to make it a lot more relaxing.
Yeah.
Cheers. Stay cool.
Cheers. I'm just thirsty, you know what you got.
It's a long day of recording.
This is where the real fun starts.
Yeah, it's where water goes everywhere on the table, right?
Right, what should we talk about?
Yeah, well, we've probably a few, not to bring the mood down, but it's been a great conversation so far. And I think one of the things I'm keen to discuss a bit more, as the few manufacturers in Australia in this industry, what lessons can we take from other industries that are no longer manufacturing here? Cars are probably the big one. You guys definitely felt it over in Adelaide with Toyota, in Melbourne, Ford out in Geelong, and Holden locally as well. They've all now disappeared.
I'm actually going to say the fact that we're still here, and Solectronic is the prime example here. The lessons learned that I think, demonstrate on a daily basis that the car industry didn't, is that understand what your customer wants, evolve with that, evolve with the industry, evolve with compliance and certification requirements. And I don't think that happened the same within that car industry.
Yeah.
We listen to our customers, our products evolve, We meet consumers' requirements, service support.
We innovate.
We innovate.
Yeah.
And it's every 6 months we innovate with panels. Like every 6 months you've got a brand new panel.
I think that's a big part of it. Like you just can't stand still. And I think it's a tension really, isn't it, with manufacturing, because you need to get to a point where you're recovering the investment on a new product. So you've got to be able to make it for a period of time, get enough into the market to recover your investment in research and development and certification, which is a huge one for batteries, also solar panels. So there's an element of trying to do that in a way that's going to give you the return on all the money you're putting out all the time. But I think some of the, I wonder whether or not, and I know you talked about the fact that Power Plus is doing, I think you're exporting to 15 countries, did you say?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Catch Power. You're thinking about Europe, but I do think it's tough to be sustainable just in the Australian market. And I think that was part of the car industry's issue. They were making a product that they started to try and, if you remember, Holden started trying to export the Monaro. No, Monaro? Yeah, Monaro.
Mitsubishi.
All that to the States. And it got some take up, which is cool, but it was kind of like, too late. If they've been doing that since day one, how do we build a product that is desired around the globe? And so I wonder whether or not we have a big enough view of ourselves, whether we think, we're just trying to make it here, rather than go, no, what's the global opportunity for whatever it is we're doing, and how do we do that? Do you know what I mean? Because it is tough in the Australian market. It's not just small; it's spread out too. So we talked about the size of our biggest population centres are probably now Sydney and Melbourne. They're all city based. The cost to live in those areas is going up, so it's harder to manufacture in those spaces because there's an increased wage expectation. All those other bits and pieces are coming on. So, but even in that regard, like we're having to spread ourselves out over a continent that's as big as the US with a population of
Less than 110.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I just wonder whether sometimes the outcome should be that we think bigger than we normally do.
Yeah, I think definitely being in Australia, we sort of look within our own backyard, maybe too much, Some of it's because of the fact that we are, a lot of the things that we're experiencing in our industry hasn't happened anywhere else in the world yet. But the big difference between us and, say, the car industry is we're doing it unsubsidized. We're doing it by our own lifting ourselves up by our own bootstraps. It's the foundation of the fundamentals of the business is we develop and manufacture a product, we sell it for a margin, and we keep going. And nothing could be, no greater lie detector than that, and that's what we're doing. So it can be possible, but where does the next stage come from? I guess that's what you're asking. And that's probably where potentially some subsidy could come in for the government. And they are talking about it. Smart Energy Council are looking at introducing manufacturers and technology developers into India. With the work that they've got some massive renewable energy initiatives over there. So there are opportunities, but I think to do it on your own is a tough ask. As in, just as your own business, you really need to be. I think you need to be get a leg up there somewhere, even if it's just introductions.
I think I mean, I think the government's trying to do a lot around that. The Future Made in Australia initiative is part of that. Solar Sunshine comes out of that. I often think, so we talked about solar panels before, getting moved on pretty quickly, trying to make space for batteries and stuff like that. Every solar panel that comes into the country is subsidised by government.
Yeah, right. Yeah. How so?
Well, maybe
if you look at the ownership structures of where panels are primarily manufactured globally, there tends to be a high level of public investment, and that investment could easily be seen as a subsidy, depending on how you view it.
Well, it's multi-layered. I don't want to be too critical. It's not critical. It's just presenting the facts.
Yeah. It was a strategic decision taken 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. 20 years ago, but also, and so therefore, for me, it's like, I look at it and go, that was really smart, strategic. And the reason that industry is taking off in places like India as well as China's done is because the government's decided we're going to be the manufacturing centre. So for a solar panel, it's only just started to come down, but they were subsidising up to 12 to 15% on the export for a solar panel. Okay, so they would give the exporter a payment of 15% of their product. Things like, they're often invited to areas to bring their manufacturing expertise and their gifted land and help out with construction and stuff like that. So one of the things that holds manufacturing back in Australia is our cost to own land and then build a building. I can tell you, for making solar panels, the cost of the building and the land is probably 80% of the cost. The equipment that goes in the building is the cheap part. So imagine if you're trying to start out what you're doing, what we've all done is said, and the government said, look, here's a building over here. You just bring your equipment in and know-how, and we'll take care of the rest. So those things they're actually influencing what we experience as manufacturers in Australia. And that's not just the big obvious ones. The state's doing the same thing. They're putting $450 billion into their renewable manufacturing. So it's
The scale's very different.
yeah, it's everywhere. So I guess the question, I think you're right. I think Australia, if you're still operating now, you have to have had been really innovative, resilient, clear about your product, how you get to market and things like that. But there is an element where when we talk about free trade, I don't know, it might be free in some respects, but it's certainly not necessarily everyone's playing off the same song sheet. There's a lot of money going into areas, and so the areas you see building, take for instance India, that's pretty much a closed market. Yeah. They have huge tariffs on the way in, and the product they make within the country has got almost a guaranteed offtake. So can you imagine starting up a manufacturing initiative where your first two years of order book is full? That would be
It'd be the dream, right?
a dream, right? Yeah, and that's kind of, they don't get out of bed unless I can guarantee I've got the first 2 years full production bought. I'm not going to start. Yeah. Whereas we're starting with no order book.
Yeah, it's on a hope.
On a hope, and you're really having to sell yourself in that market. And so it's I think we should be really pleased with the fact that we've done as well as we have, because it's not necessarily easy.
I've got to say, I live in a very green, or perceived to be green, part of Australia with very free thinking. I was brought up this way. My parents are hippies. I've got to say, the government that we have in place, which was re-elected recently, and their strategic move in trying to create this sovereign manufacturing base in the renewable industry is so refreshing. We're running a few years behind other countries that have had this overarching strategic manufacturing base at the centre, but I think we'll pick up quickly. And on behalf of Power Plus, we do want to have competition in other Australian battery manufacturers, because we know that if others can be competing against us, it's only good for the consumer, and it also assists us when we need the products that we use to make our batteries. At the moment, we struggle in supply chain because we're the only ones needing those bits or bobs or things, so if there's others doing that same thing, our life gets better.
Yeah, definitely.
Certification test facilities in Australia are non-existent. So if there's other people wanting that same facility, it makes it more commercially viable for them. So like I said, we're running a few years behind. Hopefully this week there's a battery breakout initiative that was announced second time. Hopefully this time it takes off. Hopefully this does push us along in the battery world to complement the panel manufacturing push that the federal government's been working through as well with Tinder.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We need this as part of our overarching energy security future.
I think it's an interesting point. The security is not the only reason to do it, but it's a good reason to do it.
Yeah.
If you think about manufacturing, has gone from about 28% of our GDP in the 80s, when you and I were young guys. You guys were.
I wasn't born. Just go with it. Yeah. Take what you can get.
And it's down, and that included my family. We were in manufacturing at the time, and they went to the opening up the economy, or free trade, and that business went out. It was a textiles business. You couldn't compete with offshore manufacturers. So that our family's business went from a really viable business that probably employed about 400 people to zero over about 18 months. And manufacturing, as a result of those policies, is down to 6% of our GDP. It used to be 28%, now it's 6%. And you talked about getting people to come and look at our factories. Most people wouldn't have set foot in a factory. And so they do come along and they look at what we are doing. And I get the same feedback from every time someone comes into the Tindo factory. We're amazed at the level of automation. We're amazed at the level of manufacturing and then what you're actually doing, how much you're making. It's like, yeah, like most people just don't think we can do it or something. I don't know. I'm not too sure what the mindset is, or that we just don't do that in Australia anymore type thing, you know. So it's a big ship to turn, like you say, in the next few years. And I agree with you. I think it'll take us a number of years to think about it. But when we think about who we're competing with, they haven't been doing it just yesterday. It's been 20, 30 years. They've been investing in a direction, and we're seeing the fruit of that. And so I don't think there's any reason why Australia can't say, well, we want to decide to do that as well. How do we do it? You know, just like we've done with renewable energy in a really staid system. All of a sudden, South Australia's, leading the world in it because we decided we want to do it. So it's one of the things I think Australia does have is a really strong sense of just know-how, but just commitment. Just go and do it. Just because it's hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. How do we do it? You know,
I feel the cheaper home battery program, to use its full name, it's a missed opportunity to.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Every time you say the word cheaper, I just feel
I know. It's a missed opportunity for local manufacturing. There's one thing to have a policy in place to help the industry, but it's only helping, a portion. Or we could have seen a lot more, not just for you guys, but for ourselves.
Yes.
It could have been a much better program that brought things in-house and achieved some of the other things that they're talking that they want to do, just within this one program itself, which then, raises the question of, is Australian made? Does it matter anymore? Do you've got it on your top here? Like, do Australians still appreciate or have that, for want of a word, patriotic sense?
Actually, really quickly, I was thinking we all need to update our uniforms to put the kangaroo on it.
Yeah, mate, big part of it.
Yeah. We have it on every one of our batteries. It's front and center of every single battery. It costs a bomb to do it, but we do it intentionally. I think Australian manufacturing, especially in the work that we do at Power Plus for governments and utilities, is actually the reason why we're so successful in supplying it to governments and utilities, not just Australian governments and utilities, but offshore as well. We're seen to be, and it's true, stable governance, stable financing. Our systems of policies and procedures are inherently stable. We have safe workplaces. We have great workplace health and safety policies. We tick all the boxes that's required. And then we also have that we're a friendly nation to everyone in the background with a high level of cybersecurity. So we can tick even more boxes than pretty well any other country. So I think Australian made is relevant. What we probably need to invest more in, or definitely our government, is teaching consumers Australian made is relevant. Because we're only but small voices, right? We need the whole industry out there saying you should insist on Australian made.
Well, not only that, there isn't a choice in a lot of these things because of this, the challenges that we're facing in our network. There is nowhere else to go. There is no technology to get from somewhere else to say we've got this problem, we need to solve it. Well, then no one else is having that problem. No one else is experiencing that problem. So the technology is here. So
The know-how,
the know-how is here. And we do have that inventor's mentality of, the greatest, I can't remember this thing there, but
necessity is the father of invention.
yes. And here we are. We are doing this right now. The technology is developing so fast and locally because it's only happening here, So in a lot of ways, we don't have a choice but to either that or renewables gets a lid put on it, So we have to find ways to innovate to have more renewables go into our grid. And that's and it's happening. The DNSBs are doing it with their sort of control of generation. They're starting to move a little bit into loads, but really it needs to be orchestrated in a lot smarter way. And that's the sort of the role that what's the role we're playing, but that's the sort of innovation that has to be made, and it will only be local. You know, not happening in New Zealand, it's not happening in Europe, it's not even happening in any sort of major way in the States. They just don't have the amount of renewable energy resources in their grid to be posing these problems. So it'll be here, and it's happening.
Yeah.
But when you're leading the charge, as it were, because this stuff will land elsewhere in the world, that's where I think the role the government should be playing, because without that sort of support, the rate of innovation will be stifled. You know, needs to be backed, and then potentially, it'll then be that technology will be taken to the rest of the world. You know, that's our unique position in this industry in right now. You know, so that's a difference to other industries that we're at the center of it right now. You know,
Yeah, it's interesting. I think like you say, like, do we recognise that?
I don't think so. Not
Good question.
Yeah.
And so if you do recognise, you go, okay, well, what we're actually developing is knowledge and know-how that's useful.
I got to say, the bit that frustrates me is that we can see this. We can see cohorts within the industry can acknowledge and see this as well. But then sometimes we get, unfortunately, our customers who have that, is it really that necessary? Why do we really need it? In the event of, if we're talking about the hot water diverters, maybe a timer will do the job because it's cheap. It's that question sometimes we hit, unfortunately, in Australia, where we think sometimes cheap equals good. And my argument the whole time is cheap does not equal good. Cheap equals cheap. And how often do we hear stories where people have to go back and pay the systems to be removed, replaced, all because that initial investment, the over-promise and the under-deliver was just outstanding.
I heard a story once. There's a guy who's a marketing genius and he was on one of these Good Morning shows, and he was talking about I'm not sure what prompted the story, but it was a great story. And he said, and the story was that somebody had opened. This guy had a hairdressing barber hairdressing business in the main street of the town. Got all the business with no worries. Everything's great. A business opened right opposite and said, with a big sign in their window, $10 haircuts, $20 haircuts, whatever it was cutting this guy's grass. Everyone went there. And so this guy was posed with a problem. How do I get this business back? And he had to think outside the square. He had to be creative with his approach to his market. So he put a big sign in his window and said, "We fix $10 haircuts." That's our market. Yeah. That's the cheap solar. This is the solar guy,
Yeah.
And every retailer will have a story for you where they've had to go back to it. Well, not had to, but they've come across an installation that's been installed by,
Not the standard.
yes, a cost-conscious sort of installer, and it will be a disaster from beginning to end. So, as far as, is quality important? It's absolutely important. Do we always get the message across to the consumer? Not always. That's something we could work on a lot better.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say the same thing about not just retail market, but also government sector, probably more so than the commercial sector, don't understand the cost that they're building into their business by going the cheapest possible price. And the reason I'll come back to
this in tenders all the time, though, right?
Oh yeah, all the time, yeah. But I'll go back to my asset management background. It's really clear if when you build something, a factory, a building, a treatment plant or a manufacturing facility, or just a solar system on a home, or a large scale one, if you go for the cheapest possible outcome, you save some money up front. If you're giving it to a lot of solar systems and batteries get put on a commercial building now, well, I'll put it out to tender to the builder, and it'll say have a solar system with this criteria. So the builder goes, it's like putting a light fitting in. well, how cheap can I get the light fitting?
Yeah.
Because it's their profit margin that they're, so if they can get the cheapest possible system on the, because the customer's thinking, well, the system's a system, and the builders will say, well, I'll guarantee it for back to back with the install or whatever it is. So they've got a 5-year guarantee on it or whatever it might be. But the reality is, if that's how you buy it's not like a light bulb. It's not like a desk or a table. It's a highly sophisticated piece of equipment that people just see, oh, it's just part of the building, isn't it? They'll pay for it twice, at least.
Even worse, right? What your panels do is magic. What my batteries do are magic. What your device does is magic. And what yours does is absolutely magic. There's no moving parts. You can't hear the motor revving up and down. You don't hear the flat tire or feel the flat tire. It's photons and electrons and chemical reactions. How do you know it works or it doesn't work? I actually think the biggest single jump forward our industry has had is around the monitoring platforms available these days. And solar analytics, way back when, had a few little teething issues when they'd send emails out to consumers going, your system's underperforming. It was just the algorithms looking at the cloudy day and freaking out. This is game changing. Like prior to this point, people weren't aware that their solar systems or battery systems were underperforming or not performing. And there's whole Facebook channels dedicated to systems which have been poorly installed and sold and integrated. We have to take that step back as an industry and say, what are they looking to achieve? And then we make the system based off what the customer is genuinely looking for. And we need to take away the cookie cutter, copy paste, because that doesn't work.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yes. So on that front, in our monitoring app, with the monocle, we actually have a little guy, we call him Derek. He's the dynamic export dude.
Yeah.
And so he comes up when the site's under curtailment from the DNSP, and that was to stop the homeowner ringing the installer to say, why is my system underperforming?
Yeah.
So that's an example of a product that's been tailored for the pretty unique application of the product here. There's nowhere else is doing curtailment of systems. So Derek to the rescue.
That is so amazing. I really love it a lot, but I'm actually more intrigued why you call him Derek.
It's a long story, and it's
maybe for off camera.
It's definitely not even the blooper reel.
I was just going to add on the sovereign capability piece too. If you think about what we're doing, this is a manufacturing insight, is that, we're going to be adding billions of dollars worth of equipment to our system, very little of which is made in Australia. So it is an opportunity. It'll be a missed opportunity, I think was your point, if we don't do something to encourage. So I still think the government is trying to do that. But I think the industry could do more in terms of, taking a longer term view of it, like lower overall cost of energy, as an example. So if it's poor systems, it ends up costing a lot more because it's either underperforms, doesn't work, or we've got to replace it versus, spending the right amount of the right level of investment up front to ensure that your inverter's still working after a long period of time and your battery's still operational and your panels are still working as well. So it's kind of this wild west frontage, if you like, where everything's just being put in pretty quickly. And I see that the sort of installations you're talking about as well. But it's something to drive a bit more consciousness around buying the right outcome rather than the cheapest outcome, as well as encouraging people to take up Australian content would make a bit of a difference, I think. It's helped build a pipeline, particularly if we're not going to have a closed market. I can never imagine Australia ringing in tariffs or mandating that, or governments mandating you have to use Australian-made products in their tenders. They just won't do it.
The message is more than just a parochial one or a patriotic one. It's Australian made for a reason. There is try buying whatever the technology, whatever it is, anywhere else. There are in some corners of our market, you just cannot solve this problem from an overseas solution.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So not always the case, but that's it's just something to think about there. I'll have to go back to Aaron with that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
Australian made for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of been skirting around rebates, and I know this, can be a dirty taste in people's mouth. And we kind of touched on it before. And I remember when the federal battery scheme was announced, I can't bring that first word to my mouth, it's too dirty. I was actually at the beach, and I was sitting at a surf life saving carnival, and I was watching the announcement from the Smart Energy Council on my phone, had my headphones in. And when they started talking, I think from that point on, no one at Power Plus in the leadership management teams have slept. It's just been 120% the whole time. Maybe we need to shift in what you were talking about, Richard. Instead of looking to put that rebate up front, we already have a model in the LGCs with solar production and measuring the effect of that system. Maybe we need to start moving in that direction, especially maybe in the C&I space, because when I fly into Melbourne, I look out the window and I see all these massive industrial buildings free of solar. This is the next solar farm frontier as far as I'm concerned, and it needs all of our products here, because you can't put solar without batteries. It's a silly idea these days. But any rebate should be linked back to the long-term operational generation and storage of energy. And this is how we can drive some of those too price-conscious people from the industry, maybe, because the onus of having a system that does what you advertise it to do and sell it to do, that's intrinsically linked into the rebate.
Well, I've got some strong opinions about rebates.
We all do.
Particularly with this federal battery rebate. So just thinking about it now while you're talking there, Simon, I actually think that there should be a system that is more like LGCs, where you actually get paid for the production of the system as the system is producing it. Because right at the moment, there are systems that are 2 years old getting ripped out.
Yeah.
Because of the federal battery rebate.
Yep.
Customers don't want there might be limitations in terms of the inverter size they can put on. No, I want the whole house backed up. I want 10 kilowatts of inverter. But you've already got 5 kilowatts of grid connect inverter there. Take it away. So the e-waste damage this is causing, this is probably where I'm not a big, there's always, casualties with these rebate schemes. But that's one of the things that I don't know if that was anticipated. There are fairly new systems that are getting ripped off and thrown away. Now, if those systems still had some rebate due on them because they'd only been up for 2 or 3 years, and there was still rebates to be paid over the next 5 to 10 years, there would be less motivation or increased motivation to keep those systems on the roof and producing.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the STC program should be, rather than all paid up front. For whatever it is now, what are we up to? 8 years of production? We get paid for that up front. I don't know how many of those systems. It'd be I don't know if anyone's ever done this calculation. I'm sure people have. I don't know the numbers. How many of those systems that have been paid, the STCs, that have actually lasted the time of the STC's production that they've been paid out for? I'd say, I don't know. I'll be guessing, but there'll be a lot that don't reach the end of that rebate period. Heaps. What it was designed to do, So I think there's a case for having a rebate program that is paid based on production of that system. I haven't thought about this in a great deal, but the e-waste is a big problem right now.
Monitor it now. I mean, you couldn't have done that. I mean, you might be able to monitor it to that level. I'm not too sure. That'd be a lot of business for you, wouldn't it? That'd be unreal.
Fantastic. I was even thinking about that. Yes.
We'll take our cut later. But see, that e-waste, that leads to the next problem that we're hitting as a direct result of this most current rebate, which is what happens at the end of life of product. Recently, we've seen people professing to do solar panel recycling being caught out as not actually genuinely recycling, and in the industry now being forced to evolve from into a recycling position. Next thing that happens is batteries. Recycling batteries in Australia is a nightmare from a lithium point of view. So We have a declared end of life statement in all of our product documentation. Now that might be a natural end of life where it's got to the end of 10 whatever it is year period, or it could be an accelerated one because it's been through a fire or a flood. But we have a published position because we believe this is the way forward in our industry, is that manufacturers have to take responsibility for what they do. We're not going to be different to the rest of you in this, because at the end of the day, again, this steps us to the side and in front of those companies who don't care. They get to the end of the driveway, literally, and don't look back. It's all dead to them and they just move on to the next person. So this is the next thing we have to consider that comes off the back of these rebates, and that then creation of e-waste. How do we deal with that e-waste? You can't put some of our items into the landfill. It's just not an environmental question. It cannot be done.
Yeah, well, we're building a large industry to come, aren't we? Really, when you think about it.
Yeah, building large. Yeah,
Yeah, like there's actually not a. Lots of people talk about solutions for, like, take a solar panel, recycling those ones you talked about. They've ripped all the easy stuff off the aluminium and recycled that, and all the laminates are still sitting somewhere. And I think in Adelaide there's hundreds of thousands sitting in a warehouse somewhere. So there's no real structured business model yet that works, and the material that comes out of it is not necessarily conducive to making other solar panels, because the supply chain for the primary or raw material is so well developed, is so cheap that a recycled product is 100 times the cost. So it's really hard to justify them putting it back. So then what else can it be used for, I think, is the question. I think there's some other reapplications and things like that. But it will come as the need develops, and probably with a bit of development from company. But you're right. We're again accepting a lot of stuff into the country to build our renewable network, and I would say that we're thinking more about that than they are.
We have to, right? This is the difference between an Australian manufacturer and one that's offshore. We have to care. It is our environment, it's our backyard, and they're our neighbours who are affected. So we go down the local supermarket or the beach or go for a bushwalk, we're going to bump into people that we either know or use our products.
Yeah.
So we have no choice.
How do you do that? How do you change it? Because I think one of the things with the battery rebate at the moment is you'll see people coming in, flooding the market, who don't normally operate in the market, because it's easy to sell. All of a sudden you can sell. There's potentially small companies that are in and out quickly, and they'll put some shoddy stuff on the wall and they're off. The customer rings up and goes, rings up and says, "Hey, my battery just fell off the wall. What are you going to do about it?" You can leave 1,000 messages with everyone else. I think there's this element of regulatory control about what we do, and then there's the sugar hits that bring in actors that are only planned to be there for a short period of time and get back out of it once the money's gone. So those sorts of issues get created in all sorts of ways. But I think it comes back to your starting point. Like, how do you do something at the right level of quality that's going to last and get the return and performance? Like there's an independent testing centre in the middle of Alice Springs. You guys probably know about Desert Knowledge before. Yeah, that's a great. It's a fixed experiment in time. It's a great reflection of how to see what actually does happen to different, in our case, solar panels. I'm sure you could do a similar.
Dindo out there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And how are they going?
Well,
Do we ask questions if we don't know the answer?
no, I do know. I know exactly the answer is. I know that there's only one solar panel that performs better than we do. There's one made for the space program.
Yeah, but the reality is there is
$78 a watt.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so
there's a lot of solar panels in that, though. That's a huge call to say that you are performing that well.
Yeah, so there's 45 installations there.
That's amazing. Well done.
And some pretty major brands. Like, as an example, a lot of people don't know this, but I don't want to. You can go and look on the site. You can do your own comparisons. Where and you pay for performance, right? So the ones that are performing well are the ones you'd expect to see.
Yep.
And Tindo just happens to be, above those, not by a long way, but there are other brands that are very, very well known, vastly sold in Australia, that are, the difference is between 40 and 60% different output. Yeah. Now they were maybe made with a slightly different technology. Got to be reasonable about and look at what are the drivers and all those things. But I can guarantee when they were sold, they would have been, no, this is going to last you. We'll lose 2% a year and all that sort of stuff. And they're down at if we're producing, 0.85, they're producing 0.3, 0.4. Now, if that was on your roof as a customer, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. And your bill will be going up. You think, yeah, well, the cost of power is going up, isn't it? So it just all washes in, unless you've got a monitoring system that says, well, system's 10 years old, should still be at least at 90% of what it said, what it originally started out as. And with all the variables, and that's hard to really see it, but I think that's getting better. But I think that, caring about it is a starting point, and then sort of putting processes in place that try and help the customer make informed decisions about it. Because really the power's in the hands of the customer about what they decide, how they want to spend their money, with a little bit of help of regulation. So we've all got to go through CC to get our products approved for distribution. But that's, they get handed the perfect product for testing, and then yes, that got through. Well done.
That's right.
How are you going to mass produce that, 1 million units of that? How'd you go with that? So, and that's one of our key points of differences. If you'll see exactly how we do that. We have 27 different control points, all that sort of things. That similar things you guys have in your processes. So it's we call it zero defect manufacturing. So I sleep really well, knowing that what we're making is going to last like that. And then you've got Desert Knowledge that sort of validates that. It's a nice point of validation. We actually offered that as a validation piece to, I'll just call them a customer that was looking at our processes. Yeah, but that was 10 years ago. What's it still valid now? I said, but that's exactly the point. It's still working 10 years later down the track, and it's working this much better than the other one you might be actually considering putting in.
It's a very fussy customer that is complaining about the length of time of the tests.
It's like,
what do I have to do?
It's like, yeah, it's okay. But
So what you do there is you make a new data sheet, just do it in Photoshop, right? Get a picture of a solar panel off the internet, chuck it on the front, make some numbers up, give it to them, they go. Because really that's what it feels like some of the importers are doing. Some of the stuff that they're professing on their products is just, if it's too good to be true, surely it is. I believe there's an inverse rule with warranties. The longer the warranty, the more detailed and complex it is, the worse it is for consumers. What are you trying to protect? I think I keep harping on this. Australian manufacturing is uniquely placed. We've got more pressures on us at every level than any other country, whether it be our drink that we've got in our cans right now, the water in our glasses. We're held to a higher standard, a higher level than any other country on earth. And in a lot of cases, we're inventing the technology, seat of our pants, on the fly, dealing with problems that other people have not yet seen.
Wasn't there just a story just recently that some of the EVs sold in Australia up to 20 or 30% below their stated range? I'd have to.
Surprise me.
I can try and find the story. I can't remember where it came from. It did the circle in our little R&D group in Tindo, but it's like 20-30% is a big difference. It's huge. Like you say, it's going to do 500 Ks, but really it only ever does 350. Yeah, like that's significant.
Yes.
And the other thing I would say, just a little bit of a highlight of how Tindo thinks and operates. So we offer a warranty on our solar panel. It's a long one, which is, Glenn's has very broad shoulders. But
He's a brave man, right?
yeah. And saying that, I don't have. He says he sleeps fine because he knows exactly how good our team is and how well we make the product. So I agree with him too. But I can tell you in our market, you take it. We'll offer you a warranty on a solar panel, whether it's put on your house or put on your commercial premises. We know our competitors, and that's a 25-year warranty. We know our competitors will offer you a 25-year warranty on your house, but only a 10-year warranty on a commercial installation for the same solar panel.
I heard that recently, actually, from a panel manufacturer, and I stopped and went, how can you do that? How is that?
So why do you think? The question is, why do you think that is?
Actually,
And do you know why?
Yeah, I know why. Yeah, because they're going to get caught out on the commercial premises. Because for you, it's like a commercial premises, number one, typically uses power during the middle of the day.
Yep.
When you've got a solar on your home, you're away at work, so all your power's at the end, on the duct curve. So
there's less oversight.
you're not going to see
monitoring
it very
issues.
often, and it's your house. You just go and flick that. But you've got somebody in a commercial premises going, "Our power bill's gone up. Why's it gone up?"
Yeah.
It's more at stake.
There's more at stake, and so therefore the warranty is different because they're more likely to be caught. The other thing too is, on average, the Australian household changes homes every 7 years.
Yeah,
like we move every 7 years. So most of us aren't going to be there for 25 years to say, "Hey, you said 25 years on those panels." I moved in. I bought my house 5 years ago. It's got a 4.5 kilowatt system on it. Don't know who put it in.
Oh, right. You inherited a system.
Yeah, it's SMA, inverter on the side. It works. I think. I've had my guys. Obviously, I've had my guys come look at it. They had one look at it and said, "There's a whole lot of errors here. It's not very compliant." So I'm just about to get it upgraded with some Tindo gear, of course. But the reality is, to me, it's just there. So I don't know if the system was how old it was when I moved in, but that would be the case all the time. If something went wrong, you'd ring a guy up saying, "Look, something's going on in my system." Well, I'll come out and have a look at it. Your inverter's broken. Have you got the paperwork? Is there a warranty? I don't make those anymore, mate.
Yeah.
You need a new system. Actually, you just need a whole new system. That's how it'll go. Yeah. So
on that warranty side of things, and Solectronic and Power Plus have been pushing this for a few years now around warranty and customer support. Lately, we've been dragging others in with us or down with us, depending on how you view that. We transitioned really early in our life as a company to having an energy throughput warranty instead of a cyclic warranty, because we don't believe that in a battery, measuring a cycle is a reasonable thing for a consumer to do. It's virtually impossible for a consumer to measure. How long before panel manufacturers have to effectively do the same thing? Because
good question. Yeah.
how do you then, that 10-year panel that's sitting out in the desert that's still kicking ass and doing its job, that's how you separate wheat from the chaff, right?
Well, I think that's a really good point to think about, because I think we talked about how do we help encourage manufacturing that's well done within compliance, and we're employing people, earning good wages in Australia, we're employing people, and we're making good products. And so you need to think about, I think a good thing for us to think about and maybe influence for is, how do we hold people accountable? How do we hold products accountable to their outcome?
Yeah.
And so by thinking differently about that, because I can give you another story about solar panels, and that is that, recently had our chief commercial officer came from the battery side of the industry, now the solar panel. He just went through a process of going, okay, well, what are the warranties? Let me compare warranties, So Tindo's warranty is all across Australia. It doesn't matter where it's sold. If you look at some of the major solar panel suppliers in the fine print, they'll say it's a 25-year warranty. That's what everyone sells, excluding Northern Australia, and so they cut the harsh environments out. Now, the people selling the solar panel out there aren't probably worried about that. Probably never looked at the fine print. But the reality is, you're not necessarily getting what you've been sold. So people get caught out all the time. Yeah. Why won't they sell them in Northern Australia? There's cyclones, there's hailstorms.
It's hotter.
Delamination.
The difference between daytime, nighttime temperatures is greater.
Yeah.
So you're working in harsher environments. Power electronics is the same though, right, for you too, where it's really hot in the day and really cold at night, humidity, fluid environments, salt. These are hard places for your products to perform.
Yeah, definitely. Next to the oceans, like most Australians live. You guys both live next to the ocean, don't you? You're on the coast, don't you? Yeah. Right. So I think those things are the realities of doing business in Australia. I think that might be an opportunity for manufacturers to think about, well, how do we structure things so it favours doing things well, not doing things cheaply. Do you know what I mean?
But maybe this is us. We lead the pack, and we force others bringing products in to be as good in our support, in the support we offer, in the warranties and the products we give. Maybe we are the tip of the wedge that's forcing everyone else to follow in our wake.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Hang on, this is a bit unfair because they're inventing all this stuff, and we've been just around for ages. Well, you guys invented this stuff, but you're at the real pointy edge of that wedge.
Yes. So it's a little scary at times. It's just because it is not a straight line. It is zigzagging around, and not. You feel like a cork on the ocean. Really, it's there are so many variables that are buffeting the direction of the technology. You don't really know where to invest your resources, so it can be a bit tricky. And you can anticipate what you think it's going to be, and then there'll be a new DNSP rule or requirement or a new player in the market or a battery rebate, and that can put you off course, and you've been chasing the wrong running the wrong race for a little bit too long. So thankfully, luckily, more out of luck than anything else, our little micro choices that we make each time we take a technology direction, we've chanced it and we've been okay, Yeah. But who knows? Who knows? So when I feel as though we're out in front. I feel as though, but it's a lonely place because you're really there's no one to we're not doing what they're doing. We're sort of um, uh, um, breaking new ground on our own, and it's a vulnerable place. That's what it is, because you're really at the whims of of any change.
Do you try and tie in with universities or CSIRO or any other R&D organisations?
So we don't. Look, this industry is moving so fast. There's always research to be had. We're not going to disregard research and understanding, but the research is happening in real time.
Yeah.
And if you're not there providing a solution to the problem that is fronting the industry now, or fronting the network now, or fronting the consumer right now, then you've backed the wrong horse, and that can be a crucial to the operation of your business. And it's almost like that by the time you set up right, we're going to research this, and you set the thing you're going to research. By the time you've got through your first section of whatever you're going to do, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's not the thing anymore. And that could be. I'm talking 6 months. That's how quick things can change in this industry as far as direction.
Yeah, and we know within the inverter charger space, we're going from the off-grid industry into a hybrid product that can work on the grid. You got the traditional PV inverters being from grid coming now into the hybrid space. So there's kind of a bit of a clash of technologies and the way the industry is moved. But for us to develop, to spend time on the R&D, we've got a very good R&D team here. It takes years to come out with the new products and to innovate. But you don't have that time. Like you said, you got 6 months.
Your anticipation skills have to be on a genius level.
Yeah.
In terms of where is this industry going? What are the consumers of tomorrow going to be demanding of our product?
Yep.
Or of them living in an all electric home?
Yep.
These are not easy questions to answer.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that 6 month point, and our last product we've brought to market recently, I think it was nearly 3 years to bring it to the point where it came to market. So this is really challenging. If nothing else, for certification for products in Australia, there might be 6 to 9 months to sit in a queue before it can be looked at and then put onto a public list which allows people to use it. So some of these...
You lose 9 months just there, it's a lifetime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, to anticipate what the market will want in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is, this is crazy. But more importantly, some of the components change within that time. Laughing before about tenders, especially government tenders, where you get external consultants doing the tender pack up, and they specify equipment like really down to the part number, and you think that solar panel was obsolete 12 months ago. I'm sorry, I really enjoy this tender pack a lot. It's great reading, but there's no way anyone can be compliant with this tender. Every single tender will be non-compliant. So we've got this industry that's just galloping ahead. And I think all of us are holding on.
We're
And
just holding on.
just when you were talking about coming on board into Tinder, I was actually thinking in my head, did they hand you a seatbelt and say, welcome to the show? Because that's maybe what we should be doing to new employees, right? Because we do the same with our sales team. We get them to go and look at data sheets and warranties and say, have a look at what you're competing against and really understand. And then we ask them to bring that back to a group within our company and do a bit of a presentation. You know, how do we, are these good, bad, or indifferent? These are obviously all internal conversations. And so that way we can understand more about what we're playing up against. But the solar coaster, as it's called all the time, is a real thing. And that's...
Yeah. It is, it's interesting because like, having only been in it for 3 years, and we talk, we've chatted before about it actually gets under your skin a little bit, so I think it's a great industry part of where I've been, which was, challenging for other reasons, but relatively slow moving to, the water industry talks a lot about innovation, but doesn't actually, nothing can really change. It's funny. I shouldn't laugh.
We want to be warm.
My colleagues, sorry, that's not that's not an affront, but there's a lot of there's a lot of talk about it.
Don't start something. There'll be people protesting at the front of Parliament House. Down with evaporation.
Yeah, but to your point, like you just you're doing it in real time. Like we're moving and trying things and changing our systems, the water system, the energy system and things like that in real time, and having to respond to it. So people like Sapin have had to move from having a very controlled environment to give it to entrepreneurs to play with, and all of a sudden it's like out of control and it gets really pushed. So I think it's an exciting place to be. But in terms of one thing I would say about what's really exciting about having a manufacturing sector, and just the fact these 4 companies exist, gives a place for people to go to practice their craft rather than having to leave the country or do it somewhere else. And I'd say in terms of, we partner with 4 universities at the moment, and at varying levels of, they're not really helping us a lot with our product, but we're involved with R&D and agri PV and stuff like that, which is really exciting and new. Like, how do you minimise the impact on the ground if you're going to cover it up? And I think rooftops are also the answer as well, because they're available, there's space there, and you don't have to go and get a planning permission to go and do it. So it makes sense for us to pile on roofs rather than sort of cover up valuable land. But also, we have a number of projects that right now my head of manufacturing is on the solar car race coming down from Northern Territory down to Alice Springs down to Adelaide. Yeah. And so we help out with that sort of thing, and we help build cars, and university students are part of what we're doing, and then we're just giving a little bit back. But MK's right in the middle of, I don't know if he's going to drive it. I said he could drive if he wanted to, but he needed to come back in one piece. But I think it does, just by having a manufacturing sector, is really an opportunity to. It's more than just us. It's a bit like we talked about the car industry before. So when Holden shut down in Adelaide, it was 55,000 jobs because of the plant itself might have been about, I don't know, a few thousand. I don't know how many were in the actual plant, but it's all the surrounding business that comes from that. There's a company that specialises in making the rear vision mirror or the knob that goes on top of the gear stick. Like, that's what happens. And same with any industry, because we exist. Tindo's hoping that we can get aluminium. We make aluminium in Australia, but it's expensive. Can we get to a point where for a volume that becomes cost competitive, or could we do glass here? We've employed one company, a Melbourne company actually is doing our junction boxes, that we ordinarily had coming from China before, and then not long after that, India. They've got a company just down here in Victoria doing junction boxes for us because they could see the volume, and they've done a bit of investment. So it does create, as activity creates activity, right? So, in terms of R&D, it is just. I think your hair's probably more on fire than mine. You sounds like it's.
I know it's on
really,
fire
really
more
quick.
than yours.
Whereas I'm able to sort of, in a measured way, bring a new release out probably every year is our plan at the moment. Although we've just released 2 products within about 9 months of each other. It's kind of manageable, but it's not as probably not as cutting edge as the stuff you're trying to achieve. And because it's a lot of it's code and, you talked about the way it's electronics chosen to make your products, which are hardware platform that is stable, reliable, that you can upgrade all the time with firmware updates and make sure it's relevant in the market. Now that's the sort of thinking you've got to have to be. It's the same with the batteries. You would have to be the same solid, engine room of your modules and the cells that you're selecting, and then it's all about how do you make sure it's still relevant in 10 years' time if it's still got the juice in it, which it does, it should do. So those sorts of things are really essential, and that sort of more and more, I think innovation is there's the physical things we do, but then there's also the software component that brings everything together. I think that's an incredible area that'd be really interesting. That I think manufacturing-wise sees as a. Sorry, I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't speak for everyone, but I suspect that we often see that as an add-on rather than necessarily. And I might be wrong about this. I'm sure you guys think about this the same way in terms of. It's a really significant part of making something is to be able to be adaptable to the Internet of Things and everything else that's going on, because that's changing so much.
So we have a hardware platform that we build firmware over the top of, but our next generation of product, we're actually switching that up a bit. We're switching it up so we can be more relevant, more compatible, do more function. So we'll still keep a hardware base, but we're adding more firmware-driven functionality through our products. So then that way we can make tweaks to do product improvements without redesigning the hardware platform, because we've found during recent global events, supply chain shortages where microchips were no longer available became such a disruptor to our life, and no one ever anticipated that level of disruption. So a lot of companies were, that just-in-time or super lean type approach. You can't do that if no one has that product that everyone wants. So that's led us down the direction of effectively creating the new generation of product, which is, like I said, while there's a base hardware, firmware functionality, which helps a lot. And you're right about the coding. It's something that's been forced upon us. There is a significant difference between able to make hardware and do firmware. We've learned that the hard way. I think everyone to some extent probably has. And we now have a person who does nothing else but just sit in front of a screen and writes code. And I have no idea what he does. He always looks really busy, and he's a great guy.
Can't ChatGPT do that now? It's not.
I asked that question this morning. I didn't. I was standing back when I said it, but apparently they use different AI than ChatGPT to do that kind of thing.
Something.
When he talks to me, I write notes and then Google what he says later, so that way I can understand what he's told me.
So your involvement in the conversation isn't just a nod?
It's very passive, very passive.
We've all been in that. I've been in those conversations.
I have.
Really?
I'm sure we all have those conversations with customers where you're taking notes. I've actually taken a saying to people, I understand those words used individually, but in a sentence, I don't understand what we're talking about.
No.
And I don't think I'm a slow person, but we interchange words and phrases and acronyms in a way, it's just out of control. And then the way you look at a system, the way I look at it, the way you look at it, we all look at it slightly different, and we're using the same words to mean different things. And this is, of course, why our customers really struggle, right? If we get a little bit confused, I'm assuming.
Well, I was actually going to bring that up because you touched on it with everything moving so quickly. We're, as manufacturers, trying to understand what's next and how do we adapt and all those kind of things. But then you take that back to the installer or to the retailer who's trying to teach the home owner how a system works now. When you're trying to integrate a catch power product to heat your hot water, okay, they'll get that. But to turn on and participate in a VPP, and all they want is batteries because there's money for it now. And all I want to be able to do is make sure that the lights are on all the time, those kind of things. But with everything changing rapidly and trying to understand what governments are going to be bringing, one of the things that we're trying to bring back, and we've done it for many, many years, is train the installers and train the retailers. But with everything moving so quickly, do they have time right now to understand how your product compares to another product compared to someone else? And you really need to sort of sometimes just stand back and go, okay, guys, let's look at the load. Let's look at what size system you actually need, as opposed to taking that cookie cutter approach that you were mentioning earlier on, which unfortunately some products out there are going in there that aren't going to be suitable for the homeowner.
I think we all do this in a similarish way. We have face-to-face parts of our business. We have the direct marketing online, all that kind of jazz. But all of our businesses employ salespeople based around the country to be there to support our customer base. This is a huge commitment. To employ people in Australia is super expensive. And to have the manufacturer have representatives that can do this is a huge thing.
Yes. Go back to your original question there, Hayden. Something we are involved in, which I think is of massive value to the industry, and that's this is in South Australia, SAP and run project, the Energy Masters. Have you heard of it there? So that's where it's an arena funded project where they're looking at the all electric home. So a completely HEMS sort of environment for the homeowner. And so we're involved in that. We're the hardware provider for that. That part of it was won by Crystal Cortex, Schneider-owned company, and we're the hardware provider to them. And it's going to be fascinating to see the outcomes of that. So that's control of all the major CEO behind the house to varying degrees, and involvement of energy retailers. So that Amber's involved and Energy Australia are involved to do various triggers on pricing, I guess, to change people's behaviours, maybe even and control loads at different times of the day, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've got over the top of that is the flexible exports now that sort of project. That's the sort of thing that will come out with valuable results in terms of what needs to be done to live in an all electric home. What environment can a homeowner live in where they can either participate or not, but not only reduce their bill, self-consume electricity, potentially also be a player in the market as it ebbs and flows, as the market demand changes through the day. How can my resources play a part in those changes through the day? And that's, I think, being involved in those sort of projects of great benefit for where the technology is going to take us.
See, I thought you were just going to say how you sponsor the Just Another Solar podcast, but that was
talking really fast.
Yes. Oh, that sounds cool. I listen to it when I go to the gym. It's how I keep on top of industry costs.
Yeah, for me, it's the hour drive each way to get in there. It's like, right, what's Nigel got to say today? Or what's,
But that was a way cooler answer than I was thinking.
I surprise you every now and again.
I know.
But most of the time it's just, here comes Scott. You're nodding.
So I think, again, this steps us in front and to the side of everyone else. These, involvements that we can have in these really critical, research or pilot schemes that can have huge knock-on future effects. And I know that through talking to yourself and your CTO, there's other things that you're doing as well, which is equally cool. Now, I'm only saying this because I'm trying to hang out with the cool kids. We've been doing more than a little bit of work. We've been helping us with some of your innovation within your factory, providing energy storage, because at the end of the day, that's the next thing we have to do. If we're going to profess to be Indo-Australian made, we have to be there to support each other, whether it be public or privately or both. We have to be in the community and we have to be present. So
collaboration.
Yes,
I think that's a key to survival. I think.
Yeah.
I think if we're all developing these technologies independently, imagine what we could do if we shared some ideas. Particularly, we're not in a we're not different. We're not just looking at this table. Sorry, there's no. But if there was something,
all complementary.
we are actually complementary. Yeah. In fact, if only someone could install it, we could make a really good system from our suite of offer. Yeah. But if there was some collaboration there, I think that could be a key thing to the collaboration of technologies could be a key element of survival.
What in this space?
Stop looking at my camera, Simon. It's my camera.
That's your camera.
Watch this space.
One of the things we wanted to discuss and to close on really was there's been some really good conversation around what we're each individually doing as manufacturers. And there's challenges. We all accept that. And that's just the joys, I suppose, of being in this industry, but also being in this country. And I mentioned before about working with CSIRO or with universities, and maybe if we go around the table, like what advice would you give to someone who's maybe out there, relatively new in their career, looking to get into renewables? Well, it's not even just renewables now, getting into the energy industry and having an impact. If they were to look at us, having a listen to some older guys, what's happened in the past and what's coming, what kind of advice would you be giving them to get into the industry and perhaps bringing through the future entrepreneurs of the industry?
Be young.
Be young.
Yeah, I don't mean Scott Young. That's no good. That's not enough. That's coming up way short. That's no. Youth is where it's at. This is where the energy is, like as in the energy for creativity, the energy to drive things. I think that's a huge asset, and you're pleasantly naive as to what's ahead of you. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, it can be done. We're proof. Here we are. We're for businesses that aren't just surviving, we're thriving in this industry. So I think if we can inspire someone who has some creative ideas, who has some drive to be involved in this industry or just the tech industry in general, it is possible. Mm-hmm. That'd be a great I'd be happy with that as an outcome if something that we're doing inspires someone else to create some amazing technology, that it can be done. But don't be too old.
I think when you're young, it's a great opportunity just to go and throw yourself at as many opportunities as you can. I think one thing I would say is that getting broad experience, even in areas that are uncomfortable, is really helpful because there's the technical side of it. But then, as we've been talking about, someone's been very clear about you've got to understand what your customer and what the industry wants. So making success isn't just I've got this really cool technical idea that no one else has thought of. You still got to actually find a way to get that to market. Yes. And get that in, and get someone to pay for it. That's the end of it. If you don't have a customer, you don't have a company, or you don't have a product.
Yes.
And so there's a whole lot of stuff involved in that. So if you want to be just a technical person, awesome. Bury yourself in. There's so many opportunities to think about it differently. But if you're thinking you want to make an impact in the industry, don't be afraid to go and do things that don't seem like they have any relevance to where you think you might want to be, because you'll end up, in a situation, I think, where you can make a difference. And I think if you want to be in manufacturing, in business, or this industry is a fantastic place to be because there's so much change, so much innovation. Just means there's huge amounts of opportunity all the time.
Absolutely,
it's going to be that way for decades.
Yeah.
So if you're a young person thinking about where do I want to be, this industry is amazing for opportunity. Whereas you go and put yourself into a state or old industry that water, it will be there.
What you got? Gravity.
So you got gravity. Absolutely. So in all that, just be a little bit fearless and young. I think that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
I'm going to take a slightly different approach to both of you, and I actually think both are correct. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I had to offer someone advice, it'd be network. Get to know people, get engaged with them, collaborate. There's so many opportunities that our industry gives people to be out there, to say hello to people like us at trade shows, exhibitions, or road shows. Come and say hello. Leave the ego at home, though. We get enough of that in our workplaces. come with a fresh, happy, passionate kind of enthusiasm and just come and say hello.
There's some great personalities in our industry. There's no
It's
doubt
very
about it.
good.
Yeah.
And like you, I meet so many people that I don't remember everyone, but I get those snippets of people who I do remember because it's so much fun to be with them or near them or network with them. And you don't know when that's going to work for you. You're going to need one day to contact someone and you go, oh, hang on, I know that person.
And it's been one of the great things about me being more heavily involved in the developer EPC space on the utility projects, then moving to Africa and working over there for a couple of years, to come back within the role that I'm doing now and within a consumer product, and going out and seeing installers again and retailers again and reconnecting with guys that I've known for the 20 odd years in my industry, if not newer friends. It's just it's such a wonderful place to work and really reconnect. And it's easy just to pick up the phone and send an email off to that guy that you hadn't spoken to in 15 years, but they're there, and Well, gents, thanks for joining the Selectronic Aussie-made manufacturers roundtable. It's been great having a chat, and wish you all a safe journey home.
We should get a round table next time.
And I was going to tell that joke earlier, but no.
I just picked up that you were going to do it, so I thought I'd just quickly get in. Yeah.
So Scott.
She's so mean.
I know. Scott from Catch Power, and we have Dwayne from. I had to do it. Oh, it was Derek.
You know that you'll be judged harshly if you mess it up.
We can edit this out.
Rod's voice comes over the top. It's like, wow, that's a weird dub.
That's me, in a nutshell. That's an old reference. That's me in a nutshell.
Oh.
Element of survival,
Watching this space.
Stop looking at my camera, Simon. It's my camera.
That's your camera. Watch this space.
We're all friends here.
Yeah.
Not after this.
That's so awkward. That was. So out of character. You're like,
Wasn't expecting that. I was thinking we're going back around again. I was like, oh, me.
You can cut this anyway.
You can cut this. As if you weren't already cutting this right now, live. How many times did you say catch power?
It's all about brand placement.
You've got to do more catch powers. 3 next time.
Do you want me to go again then?
No.
Go. Cars, yeah.
We should get a round table next time.